public assist barrels.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lynn Tolmachoff, and I'm coming to you live today here from the Grass Valley Emergency Command Center. This week, we have the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. So we're here to introduce you to everybody that works here at the Grass Valley Emergency Command Center and give you an idea of what they do on a daily basis and how hard they work for you. I have right here next to me Battalion Chief Annalee Berlew. She's going to answer some questions for us, tell you a little bit about what they do up here. Annalee, let's go ahead and start. We're at the Grass Valley Interagency Center. What does that mean exactly?
We're interagency because we are on a joint compound with the U.S. Forest Service. The Tahoe National Forest and the CAL FIRE Grass Valley Command Center share the same facility to help us expedite resource movement and resource sharing during emergencies. So it makes us much more effective in getting resources quicker to fire incidents.
Great. And can you tell us how many people actually work here?
There's actually 17 people assigned to this CAL FIRE Command Center. So on the CAL FIRE side, there's 17, and there's another 6 or 8 on the federal side.
Quite a few people. And what kind of shifts do they work?
Actually, our shifts are kind of complex because we have to have staff here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to always be ready to answer the call for service. We have 5 people on during the day in fire season, 4 people at night. And the comm ops work a 12-hour shift and the captains work a 24-hour shift. So at nighttime, there's always 2 people wide awake on the command floor ready to take the call.
Gotcha. So that's quite a few people that actually have to work throughout the entire week. And let's see here. So, and what are you expecting this coming up fire season? What kind of challenges do you expect?
Well, we've been really fortunate this last winter with getting some additional rain in California. But one of the things that the prolonged drought has caused is the tree mortality. And I know you guys have talked a lot about that to viewers in the past, but we do anticipate in this area tree mortality issues. And because we help support the whole state, not just the Nevada, Yuba, Placer, Sierra, and Sutter counties, we have to be ready to mobilize resources throughout the state as those challenges occur. And already this year, the Tahoe National Forest had 60 acres up in Sierra County just earlier last week. So the conditions are still ripe to burn, especially with those heavy fuels.
Yeah, absolutely we did. We saw the photos from the Sacred Fire, and it was pretty impressive considering you're seeing snow in the background and quite a fire going. So absolutely. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and talk to the folks on your floor if we can do that and get some more information. So CAL FIRE last year answered over 466,000 calls for help throughout our 21 emergency command centers in the state. And so CAL FIRE here in Grass Valley did almost 31,000 of those calls, so quite a busy center. We'll have this is Mark Zayas. He is a communications operator here. We're going to have him explain to us a little bit. Can you tell us exactly what happens when somebody calls 911?
Well, first, before the call is actually received at the Grass Valley Command Center, it'll actually go through a public safety answering point, which we refer to as a primary PSAP. It's typically going to be a law enforcement entity. Once they determine if there is a need for that call to go for a medical response or a fire response, the call will then be transferred to us. And then depending again on if it's a medical response, we'll acquire all the appropriate information. First is going to be the location. It's the most important piece of the puzzle. If we don't have the location, we can't send anybody there. Second, we want a callback number in case we're disconnected and we need to reestablish contact. It's always good to have a caller name. It makes it very personal. They think that you're there with them, and it really helps them articulate the information and feel comfortable. So if we determine it's a medical response, we actually have a software called ProQA. ProQA will give us an appropriate determinant to send a response, and if it's a fire emergency, we'll collect all the pertinent information on the fire, size, type, if it's a structure, is it vegetation, are both involved, is the structure occupied, is it empty, and what is the fire doing. And once we have all that information, we'll drop the call down and the dispatcher will dispatch that.
Great. So when somebody calls 911, usually they're calling you on probably one of the worst days that they're ever going to see. So what's your best advice to them when they do call 911 and they get you on the other end of the line?
Try to be as calm and collect as possible. Listen for the questions and just answer the questions with the best information they can with what they have with them at the time, and work with us as best they can.
Gotcha. Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right. And we're moving on over here to Hawk Deno. Hawk is also a communications operator. He's going to explain to us a little bit about what's known as the CAD system. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Our CAD system is it's computer-aided dispatch. It's what we use to track all of our equipment, our people, all of our resources, and keep track of...
Grass Valley, Western Ridge, Crew 5 returning to camp.
Pardon me? Washington Bridge Crew 5, 1539.
So this is exactly part of Hawk's job that he has to do, answering the radios and typing at the same time.
Board for me, thank you.
Here we go.
So like you just saw, it allows us to keep track of all of our resources, so we always know where our closest resource is to any emergency that's happening, medical, fire, anything. We always know who's where. It helps us keep track of our own people for our own safety, in case they're in a dangerous area, and it's for when there's an emergency, we can get the closest help to you in your emergency, so to speak. As you can see here, it lists addresses, what we have going on. It's color coded, so we know it'll pop up suddenly. We know what color to look for the most urgent thing, because we're going to respond to the most urgent call first. Things impending, there's things impending, active incidents. As he was just speaking, we have this screen over here.
Grass Valley, engine 181.
Pardon me again. Engine 181, Grass Valley.
So as you see right now, the Hawk is keeping track of his equipment, putting it in the system, so he knows exactly where they're at, so he can get the fastest response to somebody that may need help.
1541, incident 8731.
Engine 181.
So as I was saying, allows us to keep track where everyone is, where everything that's going on is, for everyone's safety, for resource management. Do stats off of this. It helps us. We study stats at the end of the year. As you mentioned, all those calls that we take each year. We then go back and analyze all that information with utilizing what's in all the timestamps that are in this system, size, fire sizes, what type of calls there were. Maybe we need more engines in a certain area. Maybe we need fewer. Maybe we need somebody closer. Helps us keep track of all that at the end of the year. It also gives us... Sorry, go ahead.
No, for example, today, April 13th, you're already at call number, over 10,000 calls so far just for this year. So that's part of that 31,000 that they saw last year.
Yeah.
And then you've got a map on there. What's the purpose behind the map?
The map, obviously, is... I know Mark mentioned how important location is. We have to know where we need to send our emergency responders, where the incident is. And this gives us a little more, visual resource to use when trying to help that caller who sometimes doesn't know where they are exactly. If they're on a hiking trail, or if they're on, if they're a tourist in town, they're at a hotel. How often do you know the exact address of your hotel? You may not have taken, GPS or something. You could have been taken there by taxi or something. All they know is their room number. Hopefully they know the name of the hotel, or if they know a closer landmark, we can turn landmarks on in here, cross streets, geographical, topographical things we can look at, a lake or a river or a bridge. Helps us, again, get the closest resource to help that person in trouble.
So absolutely, when you're traveling, even if the person can say, well, I'm staying at the Holiday Inn and my room number is this, but I'm in this town, that would at least give the opportunity where you guys could get in the system and look it up by the name. So as long as they have some sort of information to give you, you guys can usually help them locate where they're at.
Absolutely. And a lot of times we get calls, for instance, here on Highway 80, they just know what direction they're traveling or what exit they just passed, so we can go off that, based on where they are, what direction, what side they're on. We try to ask them all those questions, looking at the map, saying, okay, if they're going this direction, they're looking on the right, they're looking south of this road or north of this road. So it's all just visual to help us get more resources there.
Right, absolutely. Great. So you're staring at these 4 screens right here in front of you all day, along with the other 3 screens off to the side.
Everything. We've got cameras all around. It's whatever resource we can find to help get response to you.
Gotcha. The latest and greatest. All right. Thank you, Hawk. All right. We'll move on over here to, we'll go over here to Tony. Tony's sitting here. Hi, Tony. This is Tony Peard. Tony is also a communications operator up here. Tony can explain to us exactly what is emergency medical dispatching. So somebody calls 911, they've got their loved one that's on the floor, passed out, possibly having a heart attack. What can you do to help them?
So yes, as Mark mentioned, all of our medical calls are ran through what we call ProQA. It's a priority dispatch program, and it's a basic answer or question and answer system to triage our medical calls and also provide pre-arrival medical instructions before our responders get there. So in the example that you gave of an unresponsive possible heart attack patient that's down on the floor, we can provide the caller with pre-arrival instructions such as how to do CPR or maintain airway until the responders can arrive. It can be a very simple instruction as to remember to gather the medications, make sure the door is unlocked and the outside lights are on, to doing CPR, how to relieve choking, how to deliver a baby, how to administer aspirin, and so on.
What would you say is probably the most interesting call you've ever had?
Oh, that's a tough one because we get weird ones from just someone's finger stuck in one of those wipe containers, just can't get their finger out, or we've had one of my most interesting calls was a house fire where the caller set down the phone and we can actually hear the fire progressing through the house in the background until the phone line was burned over. But that's one of the interesting things about this job. You never know what the day is going to bring until the phone rings.
Right, absolutely. Totally unexpected stuff every day. Great. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll come on over here to Nick Salas. Nick is the captain here in the command center. Nick, can you explain to us, these guys are all communications operators and they do the jobs every day, no problem. They're really well trained at what they do. Why do they need a captain that normally would be working on a fire engine in here?
So the captain has field experience. So we come from the field and we worked on the fire engines that they're referencing and some of the other equipment, the Washington Ridge crews, the inmate crews and stuff like that. So we come with the experience and the knowledge of what's actually going on out in the field. Now, some of our comm ops have come from the field, which is a huge benefit for us. But we work on behalf of the unit chief, and so we're able to augment your day-to-day responses based on some of the information that these guys are getting. So if it's we're getting multiple reports of like white smoke in the area, but we still don't have like an actual hit anywhere, then they're going to let the captains know, and then the captains can say, based on the weather, topography of where it's at, we can send a full response, and maybe even more so, depending on where it's at. So we really kind of oversee the whole health of the unit. So our unit, Nevada, Yuba, Placer counties, is what we dispatch on a day-to-day basis, but we're also the administrative unit for Sierra counties and Sutter counties. So, we've been talking about CAD a lot and all that kind of other good stuff and our other tools, but this is actually something that the captains use, and so do our comm ops when they're looking at resources on day-to-day, hour by hour movement. So when Hawk moves somebody in CAD on the map to a different station, or he moves them on the map for a fire, we can actually come over here and see that visual and then move resources around based on that as well. So CAD is good, but we always like to go back to something that we can visually see and move as well. So
yeah, absolutely, the visual helps, and you guys can just put it on here on the map and then kind of look around and see what you've got available.
Exactly, yeah.
Where your best resources are going to be coming from.
Exactly. Yep.
Great.
So yeah, it's yeah. Perfect.
All right. And how long have you been working in here now?
I'm going on my second summer here.
Okay. And prior to that, how many years out in the field?
Well, I came over on a contract in 2006 from a local government contract. So yeah, since then with CAL FIRE.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
All right. Great. Well, thank you very much, Nick.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. And we'll move over here. This is Chris Africa. Chris is also a communications operator. Can you tell us a little bit about what somebody should do when they call on a cell phone? What's so different about a cell phone compared to, say, a landline?
So a landline is tied to your address of your street address of your house. Mm-hmm. But when you call in from a cell phone, it comes up on our computer like this. It gives us a latitude and longitude of where you are based off of the towers, and then it gives us the meters. So we can triangulate that and put it down to the meters to close to the center of the point that you're standing. So right here, for example, my lat and long shows right here, and it says 16 meters. So based off of that location, it is a circumference of 16 meters of where it will be. So with that, we can put it into our computer, and off our map, we can see exactly where you're standing.
So 16 meters, I mean, it seems kind of far, but actually, honestly, when you're talking about somebody that has no idea where they're at, 16 meters is very close.
It's very useful in rough terrains area on the east side, Truckee, Donner area. We use it a lot in the confluence, American River confluence. And with that, we can relay it to the field personnel, and they can put that in their GPS, and a lot of the times walk right to the patient.
Now, if they have a much older phone that doesn't necessarily have the capability, what's the problem there?
So that problem, it doesn't give us a wireless phase 2 signal, so we cannot see that. With that, we actually read the lat and long of the tower, and that does us no good. So it's really important to know where you are. Street signs, mailbox, addresses, towns, cities. We have Interstate 80 running through the middle of our unit, which becomes very complex. I'm going to Reno. Well, Reno is far away. Where are you between here and Reno? But yeah, that's one of the major challenges in here.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. We'll go back over here to Battalion Chief Annalee Berlew. So one more question for you.
Absolutely.
Can you explain to us what else you guys do in here?
Sure. Besides the dispatching of the CAL FIRE resources, which the staff showed in answering the 911s, we're also responsible for all air ambulance coordination in the SSV area, which is the Sierra Sacramento Valley EMS Authority. So agencies that need an air ambulance, if they have a medical emergency and they need to be able to fly that patient out, they contact us as a central point, and we're able to coordinate getting the closest air ambulance to that incident. Actually, that's what Chris Africa was doing prior to you talking with him. He was working on getting an air ambulance for another agency that had a critical patient that needed to fly that patient out. In addition to that, we work with the Office of Emergency Services throughout the state. The Office of Emergency Services is responsible for coordinating all fire rescue resource movement on a mutual aid basis, and also to state and federal incidents. And so we we coordinate for 12 counties in the operational areas, and we supply the resource coordination for those counties. So that's a huge job, especially in the summertime as resources are moving up and down the state, and it's that local cooperation really helps to expedite our ability to mitigate fire incidents, both state, federally, and locally. So we help with that coordination as well. We also dispatch for 30 local fire agencies and ambulance companies. So by contract, we provide the dispatch services for those agencies, which really helps in the coordination of those resources. Instead of having separate dispatch centers all doing their own thing, having one central dispatch center allows for those resources to be mobilized more rapidly for emergencies. So, for instance, every fire agency in Nevada County is dispatched out of this center. So we're very proud of the work that our center does and our folks do here, and CAL FIRE is able to provide quite the dispatch service for our communities. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys do a phenomenal job here, and I believe you're the second busiest command center in the state, so you guys are always moving and always got something going on.
Yeah, it's usually a tie between us and the Amador El Dorado unit, so it's pretty close between the two of us, but we're definitely one of the busier centers.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time and allowing us into this center, and got a wealth of knowledge out of it. And hopefully we've helped folks out there understand exactly what their 911 operators do on a daily basis. And remember, like I said, National Public Safety Telecommunications Week this week for these folks that are being recognized. And thank you very much for joining us, and hope everyone has a good day. We're off.